Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
Welcome to episode 205 of Sports Management Podcast. Today's guest is Tan Kesler, the CEO and minority shareholder of Ekstraklasa club Pogoń Szczecin. How can you take a club who is 48 hours away from collapse into a financially stable club with a 10-year plan and a league contender? That's what we will learn today. We also spoke about leaving a secure job in England for a struggling Pogon, foreign investments in football, how he was welcomed by the fans as a foreign owner, Poland as an emerging football market, Tan's journey from agent to sports executive, and much more. Tan Kesler, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure here, and I appreciate it, giving me the opportunity to do this. I'm quite excited.
Me too, very much so. You are the CEO of the Ekstraklasa club Pogoń Szczecin. Sorry for my pronunciation there. Also a minority shareholder in the club. It's a really interesting story. I mean, you took over a couple of months ago. It was 48 hours away from maybe collapsing, bankrupting, and now we're looking at like 10-year vision. So can you tell us, like, from the moment that you came in, how was the state of the club and what have you been working on since?
Yes, of course. And I mean, thanks for the question, because it is, it became more like a biblical by losing the club in 48 hours and becoming now the 10-year vision. But, I want to thank also like Alex, my business partner, who's the majority owner of the club. Alex Sadetsaji is brilliant entrepreneur and great avid football lover and great businessman. It was actually one of his idea to be more speak openly about. I'm usually more, transparent, but at the same time go beyond and fix things and then talk about it. So we've done it while we're fixing it. So, but it was really 48 hours away from being, locked up. The issue was there was like, immediate work to do. In terms of the most of the, contractors, vendors for match day, they had not been paid for over a year. And therefore they were, they were basically not providing any services. So even the game that we were supposed to have in the weekend was as a risk of not being played. On top of it, the major issue was obviously football. And then we were on the verge of not being able to get an Ekstraklasa license. Therefore, even the club, became fourth or third or win the cup final, they wouldn't be able to play in Ekstraklasa the further year because of the financial fair play and that they haven't been following it, the previous management. So we walked into that kind of a situation and our work immediately started in a way that we had to just make sure the players are paid so they wouldn't walk away for free. And we had to talk to every single provider and contractor who's been helping us to put together the game match day to convince them to come back and do it while we're able to financially satisfy and then fulfill our requirements. And it was not easy because it was just 2 days we had left. So we worked nonstop with the leadership group, and the work had begun that way. So we didn't walk into and owning a club where everything was pretty much set for us, and then we had to take it to the next level or not. We were actually taking the club who had a setback of, if not definitely 10 years back, and we had to bring it back to up to date. And then create a vision of 10 years, like you said.
in the beginning, you said that you have some vendors that there were players, people weren't paid, so you started with doing that. So was that an investment from you and your the majority holder, or did you go out and chase more sponsors, or how did clear that out from the beginning? Because I guess that the reason why they weren't paid was because the club didn't have any money.
Yes, like the previous ownership, in a way, like ran out of money and then couldn't, balance it out the books in a way, and then they kind of, in all fairness, they kind of overstretched themselves to be successful, but didn't realize and understand the importance of the club's, revenue streams. And then kind of got out of control for them. It had gotten out of control for them. So for us, it was just, we had the financials, but it was a matter of bringing the financials because we were one of the two foreign ownership. So we had to go through a lot of red tape and acceptance and financial compliance to finance the club within 2 days. So that was a big challenge. But we had the finances. We weren't expecting other revenue streams to be like collected and then you pay off the debts and all that stuff. We had the finances, we had the resources. It was a matter of bringing the money into the country. Once we brought it up, I mean, so far, Alex and we paid over 45, 50 million zloty, which is 10 to 10 to 11 million euros of debt to private lenders, to contractors, vendors, of course, the players. And then having said that, when came in, the players weren't paid for 3 months. And so they were actually had the right to walk away and terminate their contracts. So, but we had the availability, the financials and resources to manage the crisis. And now we're even increasing the capital. And most importantly, we're doing it not as a loan, like in the past, what they had done. We're doing it as a equity. So we're putting it into the club as an equity, which will benefit the club in the future, rather than becoming a more liable and distressed organization.
Yeah. Coming in here and you say you're paying up, like basically you're paying up $10 million, like more or less instantly. My assumption is you don't do that if you don't see, an ROI down the road. So what are how do you see the potential? And when you saw this club and you wanted to invest and come in here, what are the potential that you saw in this club?
Honestly, like it just, again, when I came in here in January, actually, January with Alex. Alex was the basically, we had a mutual friend who's a football consultant who recommended Pogon to Alex, and he and I, we have that kind of a relationship. He wanted my expert opinion if there's an opportunity in here rather than risk and problems. So I've kind of joined on board with Alex, and then when we came into January here, I immediately said, this is a perfect opportunity. Polish football is such an emerging market, has such a potential, but at the same time, it's underutilized, in my opinion, with the commercial revenues, with the sponsorship values. Ekstraklasa is doing an amazing job, with the TV revenues and within, making the league more respectful in Europe. But clubs are still, in a way, so focused on pitch success. And because when I came to Pogon, the first game, I realized it was a sellout. We have a brand new stadium, over 250 million zloty worth, and being spent by the city, by the citizens of Pogon's money. And it was 2 years old. It's very rare, very rare. You can find that kind of a facility in club acquisitions. And also it was full. And I genuinely realized that the fan base that we have, they want to be part of it, the club. They want to be identified as Pogoni, Pogoni, and they were very loyal, regardless of our history, which we didn't win anything in the 78 years. So it was quite, moving and inspirational for us. That was one of the main ROIs that we've identified, to be honest with you. Then we said, look, a lot of practices in North America and in Europe or England, top leagues, for commercial business approaches has not been done in Poland. because I've spent quite a bit of time researching other clubs, how they're doing their businesses, what they're doing with their sponsors. And all of a sudden I said, look, this is quite an opportunity. We can maximize our revenues. Then, Alex and I, we realized that the club's problem is not revenue. It was more spending. So we said, if we can, control the spending, and then if we can create a wisely budget and realistic targets, we can be one of the rare clubs in Poland that can just generate positive numbers, profits as well. Of course, all of this is business side of it. There was a football opportunity as well. And when I arrived, I realized an amazing coach who had a really similar football mentality, football philosophy like I have. And then also players that are quite valuable. We have Golden Boot winner. Our striker is the number one goal scorer in the league, and he was leading at that time. We have our right back. He's a Swedish national team player. We had a couple of players from different regions. We have Adrian Chiborek, who's 18 years old and who's in the top 10 young players in Europe, who has registering that kind of minutes and performance. So I said, with football also, with the right approach, we can do better and we can actually generate a lot of revenue as well. And finally, my most eye-opening part was the academy. Most academies, you need to bring talent and develop. Here we have 1,400 kids registered, and then we have the talent. We literally, they come to factory by without us working hard for it. So and it was a matter of molding them and developing them for the elite level. Was a challenge, but at the same time, it was a massive opportunity. So these were the main things that when come together, we said, look, the club is still, yes, it's in a lot of financial depth, but still can create us a big opportunity and big value. And we can, increase the club's value, enterprise value significantly within the 3 years.
No, that's really interesting. And you mentioned a lot of interesting factors. Obviously, all the financial things, you took some things in-house as ticketing and some of the catering, stuff like that. Obviously, the on-pitch performance, also important to, draw in sponsors. And then you mentioned the academy, which is more of a long-term plan, so to speak. So how do you balance, reaching the short goals in the short run with your long-term goals?
Honestly, it's a quite challenge because, as we all know, in football, if you don't win, the long-term goals and everything else you become skeptical, you become questionable. But winning is not everything. There needs to be a process. So our short-term goals in Poland, in Pogon, everybody's focused on winning a cup final. Everybody's focused on, and in the history, never done so. They want to do it, winning the league. So this is everybody looking at this such long-term goal for a short term because they feel like the opportunity had passed many times. For us, we feel the pressure. We welcome the pressure. We challenge it. It's a pressure. But at the same time, I don't want this to affect our long-term goals because long-term goals of ours, which is football methodology, our way of doing business and approaching to our commercial business and revenue streams, and also managing our expenditures, should give us that competitive edge to put us in that position again to win a cup final and to win the league, if not one day. So the most important thing is obviously it was establishing the trust. Once we establish the trust, the short-term goals become short-term goals, then short-term expectations by the fans. So and obviously it is a challenge, to be honest with you. It is a challenge. In the end we need to deliver. Us executives, we come in to deliver. So if once we start delivering, people have more faith on us. Our fans have had more faith on us. Me and Alex met with our fan group leaders, supporters leaders yesterday, and they openly said that we were very skeptical because in Poland, foreign ownerships had failed many times in the past, but you guys came in and you kept your word and you start delivering. So we have full support on you. So The only thing is that I think I've always said it from day one, and then I will continue to say it, and I will say it wherever I go. It's part of my leadership style. I think we make decisions every day, but all our decisions cannot be right. But at least all our mistakes are genuine and honest mistakes. With the organization, with the fans, we can find a way to make it better. So this is how I approach to our short-term goals versus long-term goals and the pressure behind it.
No, that's really interesting. And, you mentioned that foreign ownership hasn't been successful in the past. Now you are just that, a foreign investor.
Mm-hmm.
Poland in general is they have strict with immigration, and their prime minister is speaking out about that quite clearly as well. So how has it been to coming in? As you mentioned, the fans said they were skeptical at first, but have you gotten any other pushback just for coming from outside into Poland?
No, actually, because of my past, I've been in football business 20 years and worked in different areas, and I have a strong track record. And obviously Alex is a businessman who was not well known in football world, but he was well known in business and finance world. So I made sure we've never committed to anything or promised anything before we deliver it. So there was no pushbacks to answer your question. Actually, it was more skeptical acceptance. But we progressed as we went along in 6 months. Now I think I'm in Ekstraklasa supervisory board. Hopefully we'll be in part of a Polish FA's international committee. So that shows that, when you do things right and you back it up, you get the Polish, football, let's say, industry and the people in Poland are very open and welcoming.
That's great to hear. And because Poland is considered like an emerging market. So, and of course, maybe some foreign investment would be needed in order to make a change as well.
I agree. No, because I'm looking at most of the clubs, they're more state financed. So similar to Turkey, but it's not sustainable, because one year the state has his own budget, its own budget deficit, and then they just limit their contribution towards the football clubs. So, but the government had done amazing job with the facilities, given, motivated every city to build after, especially the Euros in the past, we built state-of-art stadiums. So our stadium is, unbelievable. And then I know, Legia Stadium and many stadiums had been built in the last decade. So by infrastructure, everything is here. And the passion for football is very unique. And I can tell you that the loyalty from the fans coming to the games our attendance is average attendance in Poland is significantly higher than many other leagues, including Super League, as considered as one of the top leagues, Turkish Super League that I know personally. And then, except, La Liga, Germany, obviously Premier League, but it's up there, to be honest with you. Any other emerging market, I think we're leading in terms of the attendance, in terms of the TV revenues, and that's it. So there is a huge potential in here, but for foreign ownership, you have to blend in. You have to, I live in Szczecin. I live and breathe the club and the organization, the failure, the success, the aspiration. So I was there when we lost cup final. I'm here from the beginning of the preparations. So is Alex. So we were hands-on. We are not investors, actually. When everybody expects foreign investors as an investors, we are not investors. We are operators. Ownership model with full operational knowledge.
Yeah, because I think that's what maybe some people are afraid of, that the foreign investors are like passive investors. They just throw money at something and then they hope that something will change, or they just make short-term business decisions that will not, benefit the club in the long run. But what you're saying, you are, fully invested and you're living and breathing this club and you want to, take them to the next level.
Exactly.
And you mentioned that you were on the supervisory board as well for Ekstraklasa. So, with your international lens, being in different countries, different leagues, different clubs, what do you think that you can contribute to the league for them to take the next level?
I think I could be one of the one of the pieces to that success puzzle. I wouldn't say that I can just contribute something significantly to an organization like Ekstraklasa, because they've been doing fantastic. Marcin, who's the CEO of the organization, and revolutionized the Ekstraklasa, in my opinion, with the support of all the Ekstraklasa clubs and the federation. What I can do is just basically the Ekstraklasa is on the right track and can maybe help to structure or strategically position the league in more international level. So recently we signed Ekstraklasa, like we signed a deal, to international TV deal with beIN Sports, to be broadcasted in US and Canada. So Alex being from Canada, myself like educated in US, we can understand how to promote and then market the league and increase the awareness of our league in North American market. So that could be one of it. Of course, I want Ekstraklasa to become more a dominant league in Europe rather than and just an emerging market. But the league has been taking strategic steps to be on that way. So I can see that in here. I'm so proud to be part of it and happy to be part of it. So for me, I'm just a small piece in the puzzle. Whatever I can contribute from my English experience to Turkish national team background, I'm happy to do that.
So, I mean, we have talked about your background a lot, but we haven't digged deep there. So, I mean, you've been, gone from FIFA agent, you have been to different clubs and leagues. So can you talk a little bit about your journey, how it's been in the sports industry?
I've actually studied. I played basketball in Turkey, and then I've got a scholarship to get my education, which was my father's will in a way. And my father's a well-known football player and a coach in Turkey for his generation. So I've kind of born into football, if I was to say. So everything about football is in my DNA, and I can relate to it very naturally because I grew up with my father, on the pitch, off the pitch, on the stands, people chanting for him, or when they lose, they were criticizing them. So, and different clubs, different cities. So, and I've kind of developed my character through my father's journey. And obviously I decided to play basketball because he always wanted me to get an education, to be the first person in our family with the highest education. Again, my mother also a significant character who's a national gymnast. And so I was born in a sports family, and then played basketball. Once I finished my university, I realized, I had limited opportunity to go back to play sports, but with the injuries, it was difficult. Then I said to myself, let me just understand the business world in finance, where I educated. And I also realized that it's sports is in my, again, DNA, and it's the only passionate thing that I have. So I decided to go get more education in NYU to study sports business management. From there, I got an opportunity to work in MLS, which at the time it was the 70 people. Now it's 500 people working in MLS. So I've gotten to understand the nucleus and the roots of MLS, taking the further step, because from that moment, the MLS took off with the expansions and everything. So then coming back to Turkish Football Federation, I was fortunate to be part of senior national team, one of the youngest. At the time, I was the youngest executive. Then I had a couple of my friends taking over the jobs after me. So, we were one of the new generation, let's say golden generation, to deliver different route to Turkish football. And so I was part of the new foreign football, foreign player regulations in Super League, and different competitions for national team with different coaches for European competitions. And then in that journey, I had taken 17, 18 different seminars, courses, licenses for coach education, elite player development. Then I come to a point, I said, okay, what can I do to fulfill myself to be on the other side of the business, which was player side? So I said to myself, okay, a lot of players in the national team, they trust me, and a lot of agents, they speak to me openly. So maybe I can just try this agency route and then deliver value for players and clubs. And what I did was mostly problem solving, and for players, and then most of the clubs. So fantastic 5 years of agency, very lucrative. Great success stories, brought some of the players that at the time was significant for Turkish league. I was involved more than over, like, I guess 40-50 million euro worth contracts in Turkey, outside Turkey. So, but I got to a point, in that journey, I've always been approached because I was always delivering value and solution to the clubs, and the many clubs that I don't want to name now approached me to offer me a sporting director position, football director position. And it's similar in Turkey. Most of the clubs are state owned, so there's an election process. And I never believed and I could impact an organization if there's an election every 4 years, because the pressure of the board to be reelected kind of usually makes it risky for them to make, long-term decisions. So I've always refused those jobs. But then I said, it's time now that I want to be involved in a club and do it properly in the highest level. Thankfully, I had, one of my best friends who was a massive celebrity. And then I thank to him today that given me an opportunity that I created for him as well. So I found Hull City, and he decided to always dreamed about owning a club. And then he believed in me. So we ended up buying the club. And then I ended up staying in the club on as a CEO, vice president. And then my journey had come all the way to Pogon, similar. So Alex and I were friends as well. So when I left Hull, I was quite tired and wanted to take time, a little bit off. But he said this was a great opportunity, and I came and I felt it. And then we bought the club. And also thanks to him, actually. This time he said, no, you know what? You deserve to be part of the organization and ownership. And so you and I were partners, and then we'll continue our journey together in this way. An ownership model given me more motivation to just, pack up everything in England and come all the way to Poland and try to rewrite a different success story in a different country that I've never been before. This is the journey. I know I've explained it a little bit longer, but I hope, you appreciate. I didn't bore you to death.
Definitely not. It's really interesting. And I mean, you mentioned there also that you were a bit tired at Hull and you want to take it a bit easy. And I mean, Pogon didn't seem like an easy project, so to speak. So that really speaks for your vision, right? That you saw something in there. So although maybe you would have liked to take some time off, you jumped straight into Pogon.
It was inspirational. I'm not going to lie. Like when I came here, the atmosphere, the fans, people who work for the club, who's working for the club, even the previous management, observing them, it inspired me. And, we are all dream chasers, so Alex and I, we've dreamed about, winning the league one day. That had never been done in 78 years, or winning the cup final for the club. In the history of the club, one trophy meant so much for them, but also it means so much for us. I feel like I've this task left off in my journey that I want to achieve before I do anything. Obviously, like England is in my heart. I've always valued. There's still, a lot of clubs are reaching out, trying to, get help, if not, ask me to come back. But I think it's where I am right now is quite inspirational and exciting, and then I want to be still, give everything 200% to here.
Do you want to win the cup? Any other? We have talked a little bit like long-term goals, but any other like really specific goals that you see in the future?
No, we set our specific goals are very simple. I speak to her everywhere, and I will be openly to tell you. Obviously, we have a split decision between Alex and I. Alex, he wants to win the league, and he wants to do it as quickly as possible. And if not, for him, success is first place or second place. But for me, I'm more progressive. Football is very an interesting sport. per se. It's cliche, but if you rush things, you get punished very, very harshly if you don't get it right. And also, it's a sport that nobody wants to wait too long either. So it's a quite interesting dynamic. For me, I think our plans are to every year we sell one player to elite leagues. And then every year we want to develop 4 academy players within the first team environment. Every year we want to compete for European competition, whether it's a top 4, top 3, winning the league. Every year we want to win the cup final. We want to win the Polish Cup. But also every year we want to be most sustainable club. We want to create a sustainable, because it's quite a good example what the previous management had faced when they tried to overstretch for the success and to compete in that level. The club became unsustainable financially. So often clubs, it happens. So I want to make sure that we have that sustainability where our fans always look at the club as an Ekstraklasa club, top Ekstraklasa club, at least competing on the highest level without having any problems of losing the club in 48 hours, players in 48 hours.
It's an incredible story, and your story at large as well. So, if looking back, has there been any bumps on the road in your career? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I mean, I had many bumps. Looking back, I had many bumps, but I don't look at them. My main thing is I don't regret, Marcus. I've of course audit every single bump, every single setback. But one thing I learned in sports, if you regret and then you carry on for your next decision. So for me, it's the most important thing is just every setback is an opportunity as well. So I had to give you a significant one. I mean, it took me forever to get into football business, even though, I'm talking about elite level. And also, it took me a long time to be a CEO, to convince people that I can do this. Like coming from in England, for example, coming into Hull City with an agency background, nobody receives agents that openly. I was very skeptical. I had to prove myself. I have to prove everyone that I'm actually well diversified, prepared to be the vice chairman of a club, that I can run the club and deliver success for the club. And our job is so international. I think the biggest setback usually is to go into a next market or next league. You're not from that country. You're a foreigner. To be accepted and adapted and received properly, you have to live. You have to be patient. You have to be understanding the culture, respecting the values. So I think a lot of these setbacks comes from those. But I don't regret any of my decisions, and I always look forward, and I always try to repair what I had. What setback is. So, and every failure is an opportunity, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a great mindset, and to bring that. Of course, there will be bumps on the road, but it's how you manage them and move on and learn from them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, with all of your experience, what is some advice you have for people who want to make a career in sports, or maybe football more specifically?
2 things is sports industry is not although we are so advanced with data technology now, we can track everything, and there are a lot of opportunities in sports industry, whether with the clubs or are outside of the clubs. But persistence is the number one thing, because every title in sports kind of touches every other aspect of the sports. So if you're a CEO, you still can be understanding the football, and you get to watch football, you get to talk to football players. If you're in the marketing department, you still have to deliver value, understanding the players and the budgets and etc. So it's not like building a bridge in a way, or it's not like being an engineer or IT specialist. This is a very unique, sports industry is a very unique environment. I think my biggest advice to everyone is that be persistent, because your job is never going to be defined. You're going to have to create your own path. You're going to have to deliver value in sports industry. And then you're going to have to reassure that value on and on. So it's like being an athlete, So I would say that don't take anything granted, and then always come up with the realistic projects or deliver projects so that people can be convinced. I never arrived to my position to be a CEO, shareholder, vice chairman by people offering me the job. I had to create those opportunities. I've literally found Hull City and made it affordable for the owner to buy it. And then therefore he asked me to be in it. So we came to Pogon and accepted all these problems. And therefore I was considered probably the craziest guy who had the most, safest life in England, coming back to Poland and then take over such a distressed situation. I guess I spoke too long about it, but what I'm trying to say is that create your own destiny, and then people will give you the opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's great. And to show your work, if you have, previous experiences, to show what you can do. And I talked to, in a previous episode, it was a while ago now, with Andrew Brandt, and he was like, if you're in a job interview, just show something like that it can be of value. Like, is there a project you have done? Have you done some type of newsletter? This is a previous experience that could be valuable, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Now it's quite important to understand people and be realistic about it.
Definitely. Another part of this industry is networking, and I'd like to end on a networking question. So, who from your network do you think would be a good guest on this podcast?
I have one name for you, which is, I think you would really appreciate. And the funny enough, networking is always like very vibrant thing, I have thousands of people on my phone list. Not that I'm just trying to say that I have thousands of people, but it's obviously 20 years you collect a lot of people. But networking is all about what's current. So I think Marcin Animuski, you should definitely have a conversation with and a podcast with, which I'll be happy to introduce you guys both, because he's the chief exec of Ekstraklasa, who is also one of the vice presidents of Polish FA, and his approach to football and Polish football is quite unique, and his management style is something very significant that you could just really benefit, and your viewers can be benefit, if not as much as me, but hopefully if as good as myself.
That would be fantastic. That's a great name. Tan, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Sports Management Podcast.
Marcus, thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the follow or subscribe button on your podcast app so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn, or follow the podcast on Instagram, X, and Facebook @SportsM Podcast.